Hey, Juggle with Shock Bites again. How you doing? I know twice in one day. Whatever shall you do with yourself? Contain your joy, please. Okay, so I wanted to go over with you why all alphabet agencies are anti-constitutional, and this is really important. So bear with. Now, what each branch of the government has is called an enumerated set of powers, right? Which means that that set of powers, I hate using that word associated with government, gives me the creeps. Anyway, so what that means is that those are things that only that specific branch of government has any kind of authority over. Uh, Today, we're going to be speaking about Congress, and this is the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, the legislative branch, powers of Congress. And we're going to go over this verbatim because not enough people know what this says. And a lot of people operate out of ignorance, which is, all right, we're not going to get into that. So I'll start here. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. To borrow money on the credit of the United States. To regulate commerce with foreign nations and amongst the several states and with the Indian tribes. To establish a uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States. Speaking of, the United States is bankrupt. To coin money, regulate the value thereof and of foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures. That's really important if you ever look into money trading, kind of guessing what the values are going to be from time to time. Boy, that has a lot of room in it. To provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States. Gee, we operate on a fiat currency. Amazing. To establish post offices and post roads. To prosecute, to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries, otherwise known as copyrights, folks. To constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court, to define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas, and offenses against the law of nations. To declare war, grant letters of marque, and reprisal. I guess that's correct. Marque. Sounds. We're going to go with marquee or mark or marquee. We never know. And reprisal and make rules concerning captures on land and water. To raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money to that use shall be for a longer term than 2 years. To provide and maintain a navy. To make rules for the government and regulation of the land and naval forces. To provide for calling forth the militia to execute laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions. Insurrection. Wow, that seems like a false 2 year attack against sitting president of the United States. Immediately launch an investigation against him the day after he declares his run for presidency. Just thoughts. To provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states respectively the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. Now, I want to take a break right here for just a second. In these times, there was not a National Guard, there was not a reserve. There were You had Army and Navy. There was no Air Force, obviously, at the time of the writing of the Constitution. There were no Marines, and that's why, as you go a little bit further back in history, you'll see that the Air Force was first called United States Army Air Force. So it was originally a branch of the Army, and then the Marines were a branch of the Navy. Obviously, this had to change just a little bit as the new branches came in. Then you've also got the Coast Guard. All right, and here's a big point right here. To provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states, respectively, the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. So, and here's a little thing that a lot of people don't know is that uh, National Guard, Reserve Forces are the governor is each state is the supreme commander. That uh, the president does not actually have governing authority over those forces unless the governor of said state says, okay, you follow his order. But at any point in time, that governor can step in and say, screw that, we're out of here. All right, back to it. To exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district, not exceeding 10 miles square as may, by a cession of particular states, and the acceptance of Congress become the seat of government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be, for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings, and to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers, and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States or in any department or officer thereof. Here's what I want you to notice. Nowhere in that verbatim reading, under the enlisted and enumerated powers of Congress, are you going to see where it says, here, you may shuffle. Here's what you can do. You can make a little thing called, oh, we're just going to call, and bless, and I'm wondering right here because I'm kind of questioning myself, is in any department or officer thereof. That's where I may be running into a hiccup here. But I don't see any place where it says specifically that they can take their enumerated powers and divest those into an agency that they create, which has the authority to pen, approve, and execute said rules and and somehow or another just circumvent the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights. You know, the Bill of Rights is a separate document from the Constitution, although they like to be, and I guess they're kind of included together. But the Bill of Rights is something that's really sacrosanct. You never see any kind of uh, attempt to to separate the two. They're included together so that they have the same authority over the government. And what a lot of people don't understand is that your rights do not come from government. Your rights come, choose, create, or X. Okay. Don't feel like getting into that. But these are something that you're inherently born with. And what the Constitution and Bill of Rights specifically do is say, these are things that you, the government, cannot do. This entire sequence of rules and regulations for government is a list of these are things you cannot do. Here's the limited authority that you have, and then all this stuff is out of bounds. That's untouchable. That is why your right to your freedom of speech is 100% absolute. Yes, you can yell fire in a theater. It is absolutely constitutional to be able to do so. Now, with that said, with individual liberties also come individual responsibilities and individual consequences. If somebody gets hurt because you say, hey, fire in a crowded theater, and it turns out, guess what? There's no fire, and you just thought it was funny, but 17 people broke their arms, legs, necks, whatever. Yeah, you're going to be held legally and criminally liable for that, and you should be. Same thing with the right to keep and bear arms. Shall not be infringed. And I'm of the personal belief that it's okay to fly your A-64D Apache helicopter into work every day, fully armed with 20 Mike and Hellfire rockets. Absolutely cool with it. If you decide to ammo dump onto, you know, you know, call it Al's food land because the prices went too high, yeah, you're going to face heavy consequences for that. Should you decide to run down the road, just popping people off, at random with your little 22 you got from Joe's sports store, the police are going to have something to say about that. In my particular neighborhood, you're not going to make it to victim number two. We'll take care of you. Um, all of these rights have inherent responsibility, and I don't think that's something that I've gone over previously, but that's life, okay? And when you do something, you own up to it, whether it be the glory or the downfall. It's on you. And and this whole deal with Congress likes to make Congress likes to not take the individual approach. And in all fairness, they're not supposed to. That is actually left up to the judge in each case, because each case is supposed to be taken as an individual case. Uh, you have legislation set out by the legislative branch, which is supposed to be a guiding rule set, something, essentially it's something that, a judge per case has a backboard to bounce things off of, right? But again, getting back to the main point, there is no phrase in here that says any branch of government has the authority to grant a body, an agency, their enumerated powers. That's not a thing. And what I see of it is it is 100% illegal. It is 100% anti-constitutional. It is unregulated, unchecked at best. What we have seen with the FBI, with the CIA, with the NSA, with, you know, choose your branch, choose your alphabet agency, and the wrongs that they have committed against us, the citizens of the United States, is legion at this point. Literally one day after announcing his second run, third run for presidency, I guess, uh, FBI Director A, and this probably comes from Merrick Garland, who's an absolute piece of trash, uh, announces the, I don't know, 879th investigation into President Trump. Are you serious, man? So while you have, empirical proof, empirical evidence of the FBI, uh, and roughly 80 or so names connected with Twitter going after people for satire, comedy, and, just whatever the hell, you also have at the same point in time them just saying, well, bam, didn't see that child prawn going on, and which cannot be the same. They actually had a government portal, so that pick Democratic legislator could say, hey, I want you to ban Don Juan. He's wearing a MAGA hat. He's wearing a MAGA hat. He's got to go. You know. So you know to say that they have taken something that they're not supposed to be able to do to begin with. The entire formation of these agencies is anti-constitutional. To actually give them any kind of arrest authority is a flagrant slap in the face to anybody who has the mildest understanding of the Constitution. I would say that in their present forms, there's not a single alphabet agency that can stand up. They can't. And to say that they have been politicized would be an understatement on the highest order. I don't know where we go from here. I think that step one, in my opinion, is they all get, I mean, just burned to the ground. Not literally, but, figuratively. And not a singular person survives. If you're not whistleblowing, you're in prison. And I know that that's kind of a scorched earth policy, but here's the way I look at it. And here's the way a court of law would look at it. Say I was working for an enterprise that I knew was involved in criminal activity. I am, in fact, part of that criminal enterprise. I have knowledge of what is going on, which means that uh, I am intentionally profiting from known criminal activity. And I forget what they call that. I'm not a lawyer. I'll have to call my brother and let him figure it out. But when you know that something is engaged in a criminal activity and you profit from it, then you're part of it. You have no safety net. There's nowhere that you can't claim any kind of innocence. Pardon. And the trust in any agency is I'm skeptical of. Period. There is not an agency that I trust. Even my congressman, and I feel that I'm decently represented where I live in Tennessee. I think that I'm represented okay. I don't think there's always going to be and always should be some degree of disagreement between those who are elected to serve as representative and those who they represent. I think that there should always be that constant dialogue, that constant back and forth. And what really bends my crank is that I don't have that back and forth. It's always omnidirectional. I'm the one making the effort. And they'll say, "Oh, we post this and that." No, return phone calls, send emails. Um, and I guess that's kind of a kind of I don't know. You can call that a lash out if you care to, but at the end of the day, I'm one of the people who's actually concerned about how well I'm being represented, and I want answers at all times. Second, and this wasn't part of it, but here's the thing: in 1920, uh, voting, okay, congressional voting, like for leadership positions, this matters. Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy. How are those two in any powers of leadership? What backdoor deals were necessary for that? Who sold out for that? Tell me what conservative feels that Mitch the Bitch McConnell remotely represents him. Because I'm telling you, if you're a conservative and you think Mitch McConnell represents you, home fry, you've been living in a cave and have got the attention span of a dead hamster. Tops. Same thing with McCarthy. They didn't wait for findings to come out. They didn't wait to find out that Twitter and local news had censored, scripted, edited, and then put out how they wanted President Trump's statements to sound. They jumped straight on the stab him in the back train. Now, that's fine, but you showed who and what you are. And that means, in the eyes of me, this is my lens. Once you stab me in the back, you never get a chance to do it twice. Ever. I'll cut you off like nobody's business. And in 1920, they, whoever they were, said, "Look, you know what? Some of these votes we got to keep from the public." Well, I want to know how to get that overturned. I want to know how we get that on the ballot. No more secret votes ever. It's important to know who the 37 fuckwits are in the Republican Senate who thought Mitch the bitch should be Senate leader. Minority, as it turns out again. And that's because he and that numbshit Ronna McDaniel decided to, cut people off at the knees that they didn't like instead of saying, okay, we're going to have a Republican majority in the Senate and the House. And instead they said, well, I don't particularly like their agenda, which means, uh, and the ones that they cut off were what they call MAGA, which is Make America Great Again, which is a party. I'm not a party guy. I'm really not. I have my own thing guy, right? You've got to fill out, these checks in the box before I'll even consider it. And if you don't, well, I won't, and there's been times that uh, I have found that they were so anti everything that I stood for that I simply didn't vote for them. Don't care. I'm cool. Talk to me later. All right. I know I'm straight off topic, and I know I rant a little bit. But that's the thing. One, the alphabet agencies have to be gone. They are beyond any reparation. They are beyond salvation, and it is past time for them to go. Two, no more secret votes ever again. I don't want to hear national security. I don't want to hear any other freaking blanket excuse that you can have for hiding your vote from the people you're supposed to represent. I don't care. Period. End. There is no excuse. All right. That's all I got. I keep on saying that. I actually mean it this time. Um, listen, love you guys to death. I wish you a Merry Christmas. And I hope the Tarad wasn't too terribly bad. Uh, Peace out, man. Y'all have a great day.